Now let's look at the categories of operating systems. So we mainly have three types of operating systems. The first one is called the standalone, or we can also call it the personal computer operating systems, because this operating system are designed for the personal usage. Okay. Second type is called the server operating systems, because it's specifically designed for the servers. Because the hardware structure of the server sometimes is different from the personal computer. The third type is called embedded operating system. It's designed for the embedded systems. A standalone operating system is the complete operating system that works on a desktop computer, notebook computer, or mobile computing device sometimes. So we have the Windows, Macintosh, Unix, and Linux. So Windows is Microsoft product. It really has multiple editions. Sometimes you have the professional edition, run real-time edition, enterprise edition. The Windows 10 also have different editions. Like some of them use the Windows 10 Professional Edition, and some of us probably use the Windows 10 Home Edition. Macintosh or Mac is an operating system that also has been widely used, on the Apple computers. And the UI is pretty beautiful. Some people prefer to use the Mac rather than the Windows. And the other reason is that because the Mac operating system is much more stable than the Windows operating system. And especially for some professional guys, they prefer to use some softwares that is designed for Mac, like some video editing softwares or design aided softwares. Unix is a multitasking operating system developed in the early 1970s and is also being used for some PCs. But mostly Unix is used in the servers. Linux is an open source operating system. It's also a multitasking, Unix type of operating system. It's pretty similar as the Unix, but is some of the implementation is different. And because Linux is an open source, so that you can download the source code of the operating system. You can, modify the operating system. You can recompile the operating system, and you can, create new edition of the operating system. So the Linux is actually widely used in many areas. Some of the operating systems are designed for servers. As I said, some of the servers may have different structures. Like for a personal computer, you usually have one CPU, but for most of the servers, they have multiple CPUs. So in this case, the operating system need to be different. A server operating system organizes and coordinates how multiple users access and share resources on the network. So it means that most of the server operating system support multiple users to log into the system simultaneously. So usually the server operating system can provide more functions than the personal computer operating system. The server OS provides private storage for each of the user. It checks each user request with the access control list and decides to grant or deny the permission to system resources. So if you have multiple users, we can grant multiple different access control on different users. So here shows you like suppose one user can have different access control on different folders. So for this folder, we have the read, write, and execute permission. And for this folder, we have the execute only permissions. So for different file or folders, we can have different permissions. So this is pretty important for the servers because servers are usually shared by multiple users. So for the server operating system, we also have the Windows Server, Unix system, Linux system, and Solaris. Solaris is also one type of Unix, so it's pretty similar as the Unix. An embedded operating system resides on a ROM mobile device or consumer electronic devices like a smartphone, smartwatch, like a tablet. So usually this type of small devices use the embedded operating system. So nowadays we have mainly two types of operating systems for the embedded devices. One is called iOS, second one is called Android. So most of them are designed for the cell phones. But we also have some other embedded systems like Windows Mobile, Palm OS, BlackBerry, embedded Linux, Symbian, but most of them are not quite popular. Now let's look at some utility programs. So a utility program is a type of system software that allows the user to perform maintenance type of tasks, like to manage your hard disk, to manage your file, to manage the installation of your programs, First one is the file manager, and sometimes we call it a file system, and we are going to talk about the file system later. It's a utility that performs functions related to the file management. You can display a list of files or different directories or folders. You can also organize the files in different folders. In copying, renaming, deleting, moving the files, so all the functions of the file manager. You can also create shortcuts so that you can share the file in different folder. Search utility is also a program. It's actually a very important program. Sometimes you want to search your file and you don't know the exact location of your file in the file system. So in this case, you can use the name of the file to search in your system. Disk cleanup, and you can install the disk cleanup utility program so that you can save some space by deleting some unnecessary files, like some temporary files or some downloaded program files or deleted files or unused program files. Disk defragmenter is also important utility program because it can reorganize your disk to improve the performance of your reading or writing a file. So this is very important, especially when you're using a mechanical hard disk, and it's quite important to defragment your disk. But if you're using an SSD, because the structure of the hard disk is different from a mechanical hard disk, so in this case, you don't really need the defragmenter for the SSD hard disk. A backup utility allows users to copy files to another storage devices. A restore utility can recover or reverse the process of the backup.